Across the grassy, windswept plains of central Laos, thousands of massive stone cylinders are scattered across the landscape. Standing several feet tall, many of these stone vessels were carved from single pieces of sandstone, with the heaviest weighing up to 32 tons. For over a century, archaeologists looking at this site have been asking the exact same questions. Who built these megaliths, and what were they actually used for? Despite their massive physical presence and their status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, the original intent behind the jars has remained invisible to modern history. When Western expeditions first arrived in the 1930s, they found scattered tools and bone fragments, leading them to suspect the jars were funerary urns, but they lacked the definitive evidence required to confirm that theory. Then, the Vietnam War halted all research. For decades, the plateau was locked down, heavily cratered and littered with millions of deadly, unexploded bombs. Recently, highly dangerous bomb clearance efforts have allowed archaeologists to safely walk back onto the plateau and access remote, unlooted areas. That renewed access led a team to an exceptionally large jar in a distant northeastern sector of the plain. Inside, they found a compacted trove of human remains, specifically the skulls, right femurs, and teeth belonging to 37 different individuals, ranging from children to adults. The discovery of these remains confirms the long-suspected cemetery hypothesis, allowing researchers to begin reconstructing the specific funerary practices of the people who lived here. The 37 skeletons were found alongside a copper-based bell, pieces of earthenware, and tiny glass beads packed in among the bones. A chemical analysis of these grave goods revealed that they originated from trade routes reaching all the way to India and Mesopotamia. This timeline graphic illustrates the results of the radiocarbon dating performed on the skeletal remains. While earlier research assumed the jars were artifacts of the Iron Age, these bones date precisely to the 9th through the 12th centuries CE. The dating also proves the bones were not deposited at once. The remains were carefully added to the jar over a period of several hundred years. Earthenware from Mesopotamia, copper from India, and a burial site maintained for over 3 centuries. The builders belonged to a connected medieval society with a highly structured tradition. By analyzing the condition of the bones inside the primary jar, researchers have reverse-engineered a complex, multi-generational, 2-step procedure. As this schematic illustrates, Step 1 required placing the deceased into a smaller, temporary jar. The body would sit in this isolated container until the flesh completely decomposed. Once the body was skeletonized, the remains were transferred into the massive 32-ton communal stone jars. The heavy concentration of specific bones, specifically skulls and right femurs, suggests a highly curated, deliberate sorting process during that transfer. By separating initial decay from the final resting place, this 2-step process reveals the giant jars as communal structures used to process the dead over generations. With this process mapped out, the Plain of Jars landscape takes on a new context. It is a highly organized, localized medieval cemetery. This specific ritual suggests a culture driven by a dedicated form of ancestor worship. The systematic decomposition and transfer of clean bones was likely a cultural requirement to properly release the soul and prepare it for the afterlife. Research on the 37 individuals recovered from the primary jar is entering a new phase. Scientists are extracting genetic material for advanced DNA testing. This genetic data will map the exact familial relationships between the sorted skulls and femurs, providing a blueprint of the ancient community's social structure. By reconstructing this burial ritual, modern science has finally identified the people who shaped this landscape. Even after 1,000 years, the bones inside the Plain of Jars still have stories to tell. Across